Hi, Henny, how are you? It's Teknikolour. I have another speed build for you today. I ended up making a micro home for my legacy sim, and it's the very first time I've ever built any sort of tiny home. So let's check it out. The sim that I'm building this micro home for is my Generation 8 sim in my legacy challenge around the world's legacy, which I play every Tuesday and Thursday morning over on my Twitch channel. I have basically had a life of luxury up until this point, and my Sims are very rich. To give you an idea, this Sim, August Wyndham, his father, Jet Wyndham, currently lives in Del Sol Valley with a huge mansion, and all of his friends lived in mansion. And he basically kicks his son out, and Gus has only the stuff that's in his room. That's the stuff that you'll see off to the side on this lot. And 5,000 simoleons to start his life anew in Sulani. And honestly, I struggled. I struggled with this build. If you've not played with tiny home living before, to do the first tier of a tiny home, it's called a micro home. And you have 32 tiles to work with. That includes basements, foundations. It's not a lot of space. And for an actual home, you need a kitchen, you need a bathroom, and then you also need a bed. You don't necessarily need things like a television or a computer, but it's going to make your life a little bit easier. And I wanted my sim to have both. And Tiny Living actually comes with a TV, radio, bookshelf combination item, so I have my sim using that. I didn't really want to at first, but I ended up with the lack of space, knowing that we really needed that. And again, I struggled building this. I, for the past many years, have built homes that the tiniest home I've built is still fairly large. And also, I knew that everyone who watches this legacy gameplay, I knew that they were going to want me to struggle. And by that, I mean, I know that people have seen me play with my Sims and not have to worry about money. And this is the very first time, I think really ever, that my Sims are going to be worrying about money. Because even with the start of this legacy challenge, my Sims basically started out with a fair amount of money. Like, it was not hard for them to expand their home and get what they wanted out of life. Whereas this time, you're really starting with just the basics. And he is gonna have to really work at it. And I've already found that out because I've already started playing in this save now, because Gus has needed to do some stuff. He moved out, I think, like a day early, and then he aged up, and I threw a birthday party where some of his friends and family were invited, but not his father. And he struggled throughout the birthday party. And then eventually he was able to raise enough money to get his cat a vet treat because she was not doing well when we moved here. His immortal cat, Pickles, she was very sick. And then we needed to get her health back on track. And then once we got her health back on track, we were able to buy food for her, a litter box. We needed to get a trash can. I ended up needing to get rid of our dresser and some other items. I also realized when I moved in that by the end of this speed build, you will see I forgot to put a mirror in the bathroom. So there was literally just a sink with nothing above it. I don't even think he has toilet paper. That is basically how this sim is living. And he is slowly but surely going to work his way up to eventually a small home, which is the third tier. I just don't really know when, because I kind of want him to struggle a little bit longer. That probably sounds awful, but I want him to kind of just live on his own and learn how to deal. So he already has a partner who will become his fiance. And I don't want him to move in yet because I just feel like that'll give us a little bit extra money. And also then we'll need to upgrade the home so that he can actually get in the bed, because the way the bed is now, they won't even like, I think it's because I can't control him to make him scoot over to the other side. I don't know. Maybe it would work, but I think I just want him to struggle a little bit longer. So he's probably going to end up having a kid a little later in his young adult lifespan. But that's basically how Gus Wyndham is living his life. I want him to kind of not rely on the fact that his family has been well off, and I want him to just sort of enjoy living on his own and learning how to not have a lot of money. That probably sounds awful, but it's basically how he's going to live. He's never ever going to get to a point where he is going to have a lot of money where he doesn't really know what to do with it. Even if we end up making it, we'll probably end up just cheating it away or donating it or something, which is going to make the next generation harder to build for. But that's kind of just what I want to do. And you can see here, I struggled for the longest time trying to come up with a floor plan that made sense and would work, because I needed to make sure this is functional. And again, I've never actually built a micro, tiny, small home before, and I really, really didn't know what would work. I am also working with small wall height, which I don't know if that was the smartest, but it felt like the right sort of thing for a micro home. I felt like if it was medium wall height, everything just looked small. Like everything just looked out of place. It just did not look right. And I really didn't know where I was going to put the kitchen. I didn't know where I was going to put the bedroom, which is kind of also the living room. I knew that I wanted there to be space that he would be able to get into the bathroom, because, you know, he needs to use the bathroom. And I don't know. It just felt like everything that I did, it just wasn't working. I knew for a fact, though, that I wanted him to have the TV, which was also a bookcase and a radio. But I also wanted him to have a computer. And I expected that he would keep his 2-tile wide desk, but we ended up needing to downgrade that a bit and even downgrade his computer. So that's what I decided. And again, you'll see that I forgot things. Like I forgot to give him the mirror for his bathroom cabinet. I forgot to give him a trash can, a pet, anything. Our immortal cat Pickles, when she moved in here, she had literally nothing. She had nothing to work with. She had no food. She had no bowl. She had no litter. It was a struggle. But eventually it got to a place where I was very excited about it. And you can see I had a plan in mind while I was building this. It was just trying to figure out how to structure everything so it would be usable, like it would function, but it would also not look odd. And I also knew that even though these new wall divider items that we have from businesses and hobbies, I knew that I wanted to use at least one of them as a sort of wall divider, because I wanted it to be open, but also not open. I wanted there to be like some sort of airflow, so it wasn't like even tinier, the space. So I did want it to be kind of open, but not fully, if that makes sense. It really ended up working out when I realized that I needed to have the kitchen and the bedroom / living room on completely different sides of the building. And once that got into place, I felt like then I was able to fit everything else in, because I wanted him to have a table. I wanted him to be able to have people go into his bathroom if they needed, if they were guests. I knew that there was just something that needed to fit, and it was a struggle. Plus, I wanted this building to fit in with the world of Sulani. And I kind of feel like there's so many items that we have in The Sims 4. And now, because of people's generosity and my own impulses and also being in the EA Creator Network, I now have every single pack in the game. So I basically can build with whatever I want. And I still feel like there's not a lot of items that really fit the whole aesthetic of Sulani or Island Living, that pack in general. So I didn't want this to stick out kind of like a sore thumb. I didn't want it to be super modern. I didn't want it to be a way that it just looked like, it was like, oh yeah, this rich boy just moved in. Because I don't want it to look like he came from money. I don't want it to look like he, I don't know, like his career is going to be a conservationist. Like I want him to sort of fit in with the rest of the world. And I felt like I needed to embrace wooden furniture or that whole wood look. I feel like I excelled here by using both Island Living and for rent items because you were able to use a lot of those wood items together. Plus, businesses and hobbies kind of came in clutch here because it also embraces that sort of minimalistic idea. And I was able to get wood tones that matched as well as they can in The Sims. And I also knew that I just wanted this to be a place that felt not really spacious, but airy. Does that make sense? Like I wanted it to feel as if it was not this super enclosed, tiny micro home. And I wanted it to feel as if he could live here and it not feel claustrophobic or cramped. And it's definitely tiny. It's definitely cramped, but I feel like it kind of works. Something that I also thought was very interesting, and this is kind of just like a little tidbit from when we were actually doing gameplay, because I think we've done maybe 2 or 3 sessions of him living in Sulani now. So he's lived in here for a little bit now. We already had a burglar. We were able to have the burglar be scared away, but I thought it was wild because we had a burglar show up. I think it was only a couple of days in to living in Sulani. Yet when we lived in Dulce Valley, we had no burglars ever. So everyone I know has been so excited now that we got the burglar update, and burglars have been a thing and people have seen burglars. I had not seen a burglar in my game until we moved to Sulani. So basically when this poor guy has basically nothing to his name, that's when a burglar shows up, which kind of just feels realistic to life. But I also kind of just want to give you an idea as to my design choices for this build, because sometimes I feel like I've heard comments from people who watch my YouTube speed builds, and they want to know more about why I've made certain choices. And for some reason, I feel like I'm really good at that when I do like a walkthrough video, but not so much when I do speed builds. And I don't really understand why. I think it's because I struggle to come up with what to talk, because sometimes it could be like half an hour of me talking. And if you are a very talkative person just by nature, and you still are not sure of what to say when you've like done a whole speed build and then you've edited it, and now you're like, I don't know what else to say. It's kind of wild. It's very humbling. But for some reason, I just embrace kind of talking about my design choices when I'm doing a walkthrough. So I think I'm going to do a little bit of here and hopefully it'll make sense. So I knew that the bathroom, the smallest bathroom that I know of that you can do in The Sims that's still functional, is to do a 3-tile wide bathroom. And that means tile 1 is the toilet, tile 2 is where your door and your shower will go, and you need one of the wall-mounted showers. So from Lovestruck or from Snowy Escape or Discover University, one of those 3. And then on the other side is going to be your sink. And that's all. That's it. But as long as you have it set up like that and the door is in the middle, everything will function. It doesn't seem like it will, but it definitely will. And then I also knew that I wanted the kitchen to fit in with the rest of the environment. And I didn't necessarily need it to be a super expensive kitchen, and I didn't really need it to be a super inexpensive kitchen. So I think when I first started building this, because we didn't really have a lot of money and I needed to end up selling a lot of things, I knew that I didn't really have a lot to spend on. So I ended up going with the island living kitchen cabinets because it just makes sense living in Sulani, and I think they're really beautiful. I wish I could showcase them a bit better, but I don't really know that there's a great way to do that here. Like, I love like that waterfall edge of the cabinets that you can do. And obviously it's kind of just shoved into like a hole in the wall here. I also knew that I wanted to have that island living window that has like the slats on the two sides and then in the middle it's open, because I felt like he needed to have something that was a little bit more airy, because again, it's a very tight, small space. And I wanted it to be something that he could just, everything felt like it was breathable. Everything felt like you can kind of like see through. It wasn't like super claustrophobic. And I wanted that window right above like the kitchen sink, really, but it ended up not looking the way that I expected. And I knew that I wanted there to be an oven, but I felt like any oven that I put in, the back piece of the oven, like where like you have like the knobs and stuff, it would cover the window and it just looked so odd. So I needed to upgrade to a little bit more expensive. So I'm using the Home Chef Hustle fridge and oven. And I think it's okay because it kind of matches the cabinets. I'm also using the upper cabinets from Home Chef Hustle because they sort of match the ones from Island Living, and we didn't get upper cabinets for Island Living. I just knew that I wanted it to be like this dark brown, sort of like beachy, sort of like sandy sort of feeling. And I felt like that matched the best without it being light colored cabinets, because I'm not the biggest fan of light colored cabinets. I don't know why, I just don't. I wanted him to keep his Sulani bed. I didn't want to get rid of it because he's had that since he was younger, and it's from Island Living, and I just wanted him to keep it. But I knew that the TV had to be the one from Tiny Living. So I tried to just get all of it to match as best as I could. I also knew that I wanted the exterior to use a lot of the Island Living items. So we're using, I believe, the roof from Island Living. It might be from For Rent, but I think it's from Island Living. And I also knew that I wanted to use columns, which was adding to, or taking away from our budget, I should say. I also knew that I wanted the ceilings to be painted, which I needed to end up selling a couple of items so that we could actually do that. I wanted a ceiling fan, and I don't remember if this is the one from Island Living or if it's from one of the other packs, but I had to check by having a sim here to make sure that they could actually get into the bed, because I've built ceiling fans above beds before and they won't go into the bed. It was a struggle. I also knew that I wanted there to be a little more windows, and there's not a ton of windows, but there's enough. And there's also 2 windows which are fully enclosed. And that's one that is by his desk area that kind of is like full length. And then there's another one that like kind of leads into the kitchen, like in his foyer area, if you could call it that. And I wanted both to be there, and I wanted those to be closed just so we could let in more light, because otherwise there's just a window in the back and the front, and even though they're fully open, basically they're not bringing in much light. So that was kind of like my mindset, and I wanted it to be very just fit in with Island Living, and I think I did a really good job. We are getting towards the end of the speed build right now, though, so I think it's time that we jump into the game and I can give you a little bit of a tour, and I can show you a little bit of the changes that we made, because he moved his immortal cat in and she needed items, and we also needed other things like a trash can. So let's check it out. So here we are on the Tangled Flat lot in Sulani, and this is the micro home that I built. And as you can see, it is not very big. But you come in the front door. We finally got a little trash can. You come inside, and I actually have right in front of the door, we have that burglar sign. We have Pickles, our immortal cat's food, and her litter box in the back. Then there is a little table for dining. Over here is our very small kitchen. We've got a fridge, which sometimes I have forgotten. We finally got a fire alarm. And then we have our 3-tile wide bathroom. We have our little desk over here. Here is his entertainment center and his bed. And then on the outside, we've gotten the seasonal box, and we also have a chess table. But that, my friends, is the conclusion to my very first micro home build. If you liked this video, and I hope you did, please be sure to like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss future videos. And if you want to see how life ends up for our sim here, Gus Wyndham, be sure to tune in to my Twitch channel every Tuesday and Thursday morning. At 10 a.m. Eastern Time, we are going to be playing with my Around the World's Legacy Challenge. But I'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.